there is almost no way you're not going to be disappointed by that. We've now, so you can see why I come to PEP, simply for this being moisturized in the love of good people. Everyone should have 7 to 10 priests who love them. So she didn't really tell you who I am or what I do at all, but I'm a speech pathologist by trade, and my background is in theater. And I wandered into Duke Divinity School in 1991, following an offer to work with a couple of preachers who had legitimate difficulty speaking. One had a repaired cleft palate, the other had a stutter like good Moses, and began working with a handful of preachers, which were, of course, in 1991, all men, all white, all very tall, and wore bow ties a lot. I don't know why. In the next year, it seemed like that was pathologizing, like those kids in school that they send to the art closet to go see a speech pathologist, and everybody pretends you don't know where they went. That maybe every single preacher could use an unbiased pew sitter to see their sermon. And I have had the most remarkable career I could ever imagine, watching 50 or 60 sermons a week, sitting in my little basement media closet, and having the opportunity to really see, to witness your gifts. And things have changed a lot since I first began doing this work. And it's occurred to me over the years that preaching itself is pretty ableist. So as we go through this work today, we're going to talk about our bodies, not as these inconvenient meat sacks, but in fact, the embodiment of God's moving, powerful, brave word. We're going to talk about our voices, or as I like to call it, your neck shofar, as how you can care for this instrument and live fully into the beloved vocational call that is already on your heads. This past Sunday on Pentecost, it occurred to me that in this room, full of newly anointed preachers, missionaries, prophets, and priests, that it's possible when all these tongues of fire fell that maybe you couldn't see the one that was on your own head. You know that game where you put a card here and everybody knows who you are but you? I wonder, given the nature of our humanness, if maybe some of those disciples looked around that room and thought, oh, everybody else has it. And it required someone else. It required community to come see it in you. You too. You're on fire. So my hope is in your preaching groups and with each other that you will recognize the fire that is in each of you and witness it and show what you see in each other. This opportunity for being part of a preaching cohort is a gift. From now on, your feedback opportunities will be very limited to the more about manners than meaning nice sermon preacher, or the even less instructive not coming back. So here, you actually can be honest and hopeful and bear witness to each other's unique gifts. So in COVID, I started caring about this picture a good bit. What do you notice about this image?
Muscles.
Ripped, right?
A hand.
Yep, you can see that right there. Can you see what he's holding? It's a shoe.
It's a shoe.
Is no one going to mention the fact that he is wearing no clothes? I mean, that's awesome. You guys' insight went straight to the deep theological, but he's naked. Thanks be to God. I grew up in... Sorry, Paul. So this image, you know where we are in the Bible, right? Burning bush. I love that it kind of looks like stained glass. I I grew up in Vacation Bible School and Sunday school, and I knew that he took off his shoes. Like that part was pretty clear, but nobody mentioned that Moses might have removed his pants. What emotion or subtext or word comes to mind when you watch this, observe this image?
Stunned.
Mm-hmm. Kind of what you were saying about taken aback.
Awe.
Mm-hmm. Risk.
Vulnerable. Yeah.
His hairy thighs and knocked back literally on his ass by this undoable call. This like full frontal encounter with the divine. I like to imagine where we are in this text. While Moses is mumbling his excuses, who will I say sent me? I'm wanted back there for murder. It's not going to go well. My brother's pretty good at this. I'm not a very good public speaker. And I like to imagine in that moment, God, and I know this is gendered, but sounding a lot like the farmer in Babe when he says, "That'll do." That'll do, Moses. God says, "Moses, what is in your hand?" And Moses is like mumbling, "This stick I picked up along the way. It's not much. It's all I got." And God responding, I have plans for that stick. It's going to be powerful enough to split the sea. What you already have in your hand, in your body, in your voice, in your mind, in your spirit, that'll do. Because ultimately, it's not all that much about you. And you may find yourself on a Saturday with a laptop and some hope. And I'd like for you to remember that that'll do. It's both about you and also not at all about you, which should be hugely comforting. I also love this image because I'm wondering if maybe you felt this way before. This one has what we call a modesty panel, which makes me believe that perhaps there was some truth in this no pants preaching thing. And there's a desire to hide yourself, to hide your body, to hope that you can deliver this esoteric, linguistically crafted, beautiful message without it ever having gone through the wondrous, anointed mess that is you. Have you ever felt this way in the pulpit? Naked, full frontal? Can't hide from this story. Oh, she knows what I said last week. The scripture that the lectionary gave me makes me feel vulnerable, exposed, completely at the will of this exposed nerve moment. So, this is how we tend to perceive ourselves. What do you notice here? Oh, they're so happy. Look at them. What else? Joy. Again with the color.
It's curated.
Of course it is. Yeah, definitely. These are posed. You look great, by the way. Mother Senator Dr. Wright. I like those glasses. There's a joy, there's a hospitality, there's welcome. Yes, all of these preachers look perfectly comfortable and happy in their position. Arms open, modified Arons, come to God, you are loved. Why wouldn't everybody come to church? I mean, really, look at this invitation. And we as preachers, you as preachers, not me, in our minds perceive that we are in this posture of open invitation and humility. And in the world, there's a little different understanding of what preacher might look like. This is a painting, an early American painting entitled The Preacher. Now what do you see?
Scary.
Scary institution. It's just you and the finger. Yeah.
He's married.
Yes.
What was that?
Scolding.
Scolding.
He's married.
For sure. That's the only surprising thing for me, because that... I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's traditional. There's a sorrow and an anger.
The lines on his face are not smile lines.
These vertical 11s.
I know this is old, but he looks like Richard Nixon.
You are definitely a crook. The color even, right? It's all sepia, kind of like an angry Mr. Rogers. So take that to the actual physical thing. What do you read as judgy? The finger, the 11sies, the disappointed mouth. Where do you think we are in the Bible here? I think so too. I think there are some horsemen up in that text. So when you go into the pulpit or the chancel or the chair or wherever you preach, this is what you're up against. A world's notion that you are against us. When you go to a bar or an axe-throwing venue or a mixed cocktail party and people say, what do you do? And if you say, I'm a preacher, which I doubt it would be how you would answer, what would they almost inevitably say, Lynn? You don't look.
You don't look like a preacher.
And it's because you don't look like this guy. That's the internal image of what a preacher should look like. So it's kind of a steep haul then to be literally disarming, to put down the weapons, to be aware of ourselves, our bodies, our limitations, and our skills, and know that the world who is hurting and afraid and pretty sure they're about to get spanked finds a way home. And that way is through you. It's you who lift up that light. So this is the worst chart in history, and when Christ comes again, this will be the very first thing to go. It's sinful that people judge you on your nonverbal far more than what you say. And this terrible humanness has been used against bodies of all kinds, women, people of color, entire races of people since Mary Magdalene first ran down from the tomb and said, he's not there. And I am certain one of the disciples said, you really shouldn't probably preach in open-toed sandals. This nonverbal stuff is awful, but it is there. So for the next little while, we're going to talk about nonverbal as this exists and not acknowledge that it is in any way just or true. But as pastors and people who preach to people you love, we're going to be aware of what connotations are in this terrible nonverbal. When Christ comes again, we should be able to preach in a tube top and stilettos. There should be no judgment on how we look or how our bodies are or what we're doing with our glasses. But until that day comes, let's just at least talk about what the general notions are, and then hope that as we bring the kingdom of God closer to the kingdom here, we move past many of these ableist, sexist, racist, misogynist ideas. The sermon is twice born, once when it is written and again when it is delivered. At some point, maybe on a Tuesday, when you got the lection, and some story sparked in your mind, and the Spirit moved in the text, and your ideas leapt like brook trout, shimmering rainbow in the sun. And then your kid got the flu. And then you had a hospital visit, and then another funeral. And Saturday came, and you wrote a sermon instead. You kind of slapped God into shape with 3 points in a poem. At some point, it's always a Mary Oliver too, or Wendell Berry. And that second birth falls flat. It is important to know that this is the second birth. The sermon is existing out here in the air between my mouth and your ear, and is not paper, It is not the commentary work. It is not your great, beautiful ideas. It's what manages to make it across that leap, that parkour leap that Kim talked about yesterday. So we're going to talk about posture, stance, gesture, expression, and eye contact. What do you see here? What?
He's hunched over.
Yes. What does the hunch tell you?
He's more concerned with the text than the people.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's Kierkegaard, and that kind of goes with the writing. It feels right. And we're just looking at like a moment in time. We're looking at a painting. We're not looking at an ongoing. But yeah, I feel like I'm watching this preacher engage with their own words, and I'm invited to observe. How about here? Engaging the podium. What do you read? Not me, them. We're not going to tell them. It's okay.
They're embracing the podium.
Yeah. There's a lot here. Is this leaning on the podium, does this look the same as our Kierkegaard?
No.
Why? There's energy in it, there's movement in it. And he's pointing too, but it doesn't feel like that. He's pointing at, I don't know, the American Care Act back there somewhere that's coming. This preacher there's a lot for me to get through to see and know them. There's the heavily carved pulpit. There's the altar, the liturgical vestments, the chasuble, the glitter, the mustache, the glasses. I have a long way to wade through to find a connection. That doesn't mean that's not easily overcome, but in that still, it's going to be a little harder for me to connect with the humanness of that preacher. How about these? Obviously, Martin Luther King Jr. can do whatever Martin Luther King Jr. wants to do with the pulpit. How do you perceive those pulpit engagements?
I feel like he's like, I got something to tell you.
Yeah, it's like a secret.
Yeah.
Let me tell you the story. In the church I grew up in, this was the kind of church where the preacher would take the watch off really ceremonially, and you're like, oh, we are in for it. But whenever he came around the pulpit, even as a child, I could feel my blood pressure go down. We're going to hear a story. You're going to be with us and not just at us. This block of wood is simply to hold your notes. It's not your emotional support pulpit. It's you want to not grip it. It's not your third leg. You're not driving to the kingdom. You can almost feel, at least in the Methodist Church, kind of an invisible rubber band. They really want to be out and be cool. Jesus is cool. And you can hear as the story ends, they're like, just like it's home base. Think about what you're doing with the pulpit. You may have noticed what Brent did yesterday. There was he made his own little ledge to keep the notes closer to the end of the pulpit so the eye contact was easier. Oh, this is the good news. This is the gospel. It does not matter what you take in the pulpit. Your whole manuscript, your beautiful words that you've crafted and prayed over, your handout, your iPad, your heavy outline, your single Post-it note, the smoke signals from the church across the street that is agreed. It does not matter what you bring into the pulpit as long as it supports the relationship between the speaker and the hearer. And you're both there. We sort of knew this in COVID when you tried to speak in your breakfast nook into the eye of your computer. And it was crippling to just talk into your own anxiety. And it's because this wasn't how communication was ever meant to be. We noticed it when we came back to church after COVID, when we couldn't read anybody's facial expression and they all seemed mad at us. Because without the nose and the mouth, we perceive judgment. It doesn't matter what you take into the pulpit. What matters is it supports this second birth of the sermon. Every time you give energy, you're also receiving it. You know, there's that one person, thank you for that yummy face. There's a neck noise person over here. There's the sweet ladies, the widow row, that they're just like holding you up with their face. You take all that energy, you harvest it, and you put it back into the sermon and you give it back. This is the ultimate in communicative grace that we receive, we engage, and then return. And that's hard to do if your notes have become the most valuable, most beautiful, oh my God, I love this sermon. I'm going to whip it out with a flourish. I'm going to caress it. I'm going to straighten it. Just break up with your notes. Just be friends. Literally see other people. So should you use a manuscript, there's some ways to make that more supportive for you that's easier. So your body is inhabiting the sermon and it's not just being read. We are no longer in a world where people are much read at. Newscasters don't use notes. Sportscasters, Jon Stewart used them for a while, but that was just as a prop to like spin. There is no other place in your average American life where you would expect to go somewhere and be read at from paper. Politicians use teleprompters. It's become a sign of, so in at least a lot of my worlds, this idea of breaking up with the manuscript has gotten a lot of traction. Get free from the manuscript, like it's a bad habit, like smoking. You just need to put the manuscript down. And there are people whose best self comes from having a full manuscript. That comfort, that support gives you the freedom to be fully in the moment of that second birth. And there are some folks who just kind of babble away who could desperately use a codified thought. There's know that what supports you is your personal preaching style. So should you use this manuscript, some things that make it easier are to use a lot of white space. You don't want to have just a rectangle of letters. It's easier to read off cream than white. Someday I'm going to know why. It's something about the rods and the cones, but it really doesn't matter here today. Use a wide lower margin, so you may not even put anything on the bottom of your notes. And if you can, like Brent did, tape a ruler, use a prayer book, do something to keep your notes at the upper end so that now I have an acute angle to look down and look up at you instead of looking all the way down my shoe tips. Also, in a good and perfect world, the pulpits will all be properly sized for everybody. The floor will be pneumatic instead of you having to pull out a little stool like it's Youth Sunday. Parakeeting on the pulpit. They're obviously made for a particular body and a particular height. You may also use color to shape your sermons. Most of you, unless your last name is Wesley, are not likely to have your manuscript published. You can write all over it. You can do it however works for you. And shaping with color might be a way to help you know what's coming next. We'll talk about that a little more later. So don't look at this, just sort of blur your eyes. Squinch them up. What do you see? It's a big block. Is this similar to much of what you take up with you? So you can break it up more like code or poetry that lets your eye move across the page, and it's almost like you're setting it to music. You might know where your pauses are. You might use phrasing in some way. It's really helpful with scripture, this kind of visual map. We played with this yesterday in our workshop. Who would read this text for me? Just start it. Grace, thank you.
If anyone else has reason to be confident in the flesh, I have more.
Okay, you can stop. Who felt relieved that you weren't going to have to hear that whole thing? So imagine that rather than bringing a block of text, you use what you have, use your staff that God gave you, and break it up more like a visual map. All right, Grace, resume.
Resume.
Well, you can start at the beginning.
If anyone else has reason to be confident in the flesh.
Hold on just 1 minute. Would you mind standing? Okay, and then channel. All right. Actually, yeah, maybe even stand on your chair. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes, and.
Okay. All right. Are you with me? Are you with me, theater girl? Jazz hands?
Yeah.
Channel. Hamilton. Cabinet battle number 2. Go.
If anyone else has reason to be confident in the flesh, I have more. Circumcised on the 8th day, a member of the people of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew born of Hebrews. As to the law, a Pharisee. As to the zeal, a preceptor of the church. As to the righteous under the law, blameless.
Yay. You don't have to read the rest. So the old notion used to be don't do anything to the text. This was in the early Catholic Church. Just read it straight, read it loud enough, read it slow enough, make sure you don't mispronounce the Mephiboshites, and let the hearer engage with the text on their own. That's a great notion, but it simply isn't true. It's not the way human communication works. You have this incredible tome full of living, cheating, lying, fighting humans, and to read it without any inflection, this is the word of God, is going to give some interpretation. And that interpretation is, this hasn't affected me and isn't likely to move you either. If I could give you one thing to hold on to, it's trust yourself to actually be impressed by the text as you read it. It really is living, breathing, powerful word. The prophet says that it's the word of the Lord that comes down out of Jerusalem and starts doing that work of pounding swords into plowshares, and neither shall there be war anymore. That's always struck me as a little strange. Why the word of the Lord? Why wouldn't the Lord just send some well-armed angels and just start banging the Abrams tanks into playsets? It seems inefficient. Y'all are inefficient. And this is how God chose to do it, through the word. So trust the word that is in you. Trust that space between your mouth and the listener's ears.
And then the explanation.
It's kind of an asked and answered. And you read that cold. You didn't practice it at all. And this is very personal. You would obviously want to map out how you see and how you read Scripture. But one thing that I noticed that she did was that stair-step effect. Because if you start this text with circumcised on the 8th day, first of all, that's a lot about foreskin early on. And you have nowhere to go. You can't keep getting more and more animated. Hebrew, only collies could hear Paul then. So think about, I have done most of the lectionary as visual maps, and I'll share the link when we have our little follow-up email, but that's how I would do it. But you may find this is really fun to do with youth, to do yourself, and you may not take that up there and read. You may just read from your your special, wonderful Episcopal tome. But maybe in your mind, you read it aloud in this way. Which of these preachers would you like to listen to? These are the preaching labs at Duke. Aren't they grim? But the pulpits are adjustable. No one much wants to look at the top of your head. Here's a hopeful thing. There are times when you need to look up, but there are not that many. You can establish connection in a few key places. Kim shared this bishop buddy yesterday, and I just love that she is preaching within her own habit body. She's a middle-aged woman with a okay haircut. I love her. And her iPad, and she uses not screaming or gesturing, not this low profundo prophetic voice. She is completely within herself. And her superpower was pauses. When she looked up and said, "Have mercy," not a king or a president or a senator, no one in the room could interrupt her while she held her space. That's power. Some eye contact things that I've noticed over the years that don't work so well. I love Barbara Brown. I do. I would just as soon read many of her sermons and hear her preach it. And when your sermons sound like her, you don't have to look up either. But until that day, she's a bit of a sprinkler. So here are the beautiful, oh, so pretty, down at the notes, and then just kind of just kind of a little bit of eye contact everywhere, but I haven't really looked at anybody. You can almost hear it. The peeper is it's me and my notes that I love, and they're beautiful, and I'm going to look at them and touch them and caress them, and then occasionally I'm going to, you're still here, Susan. Beep. Peep. Brent's back. Peep. The scanner looks at everyone in a very systematic way because they really don't want to leave anyone out. And it's not meaningful, it looks mechanical, and it's weird. The hypnotist talks to one person for way too long. We tend to only want to make eye contact with the yummy-faced people, your mom, whoever you're sleeping with, your partner. You have to look at this guy too. The one who's already angrily writing an email while you're still preaching about how political your sermon is. You got to look at them too. The Wimbledon is common in a divided chancel, down to your notes and up, and down to my notes and up, like you're doing a State of the Union address and don't want to tick off either political party. It's predictable. It looks like a cat watching tennis on television. Effective eye contact is at the right times, which we'll talk about in a moment, with one or two people for a meaningful but not a discomforting amount of time. And then back to your page, grab up some words and have that second birth. It's often, in my practice, I see a lot of the best parts, the stickiest, juiciest, most delicious insights. You most want to get those right, so they end up being delivered right to the notes. All this part that wasn't very important gets delivered out here, and Christ is the eternal flame. The last part both gets suffocated by volume and gets delivered to the notes. So the times for eye contact that matter: establishing relationship in the opening, establishing connection and sending forth in the last bit, and something in the middle. As you said, you don't need to read your own story. It's always a little strange for me to see someone read, once I was at youth camp, and you could sit in a bar and tell me this story. Don't sacrifice getting it right and perfect for the sake of stillbirth in that second delivery. So if you can start off with 60 seconds and you can end with 90 seconds, we don't need you to look at us the whole time. We need you to know that we're here and connect immediately. And we need you to know that we're entrusted to take this message elsewhere. What to do with your hands? As Mother Nikki mentioned, you may have become surprised to find that they have, in fact, come along with you. I work with seminarians, and this is one of their first jobs, is to stand and give a 5-minute and figure out what to do. And the hands are awkward. So here's some things that don't work so awesomely. I need to go to this side so I can read them. Okay. My cat is up a tree. You can see that my hands are almost a barometer of how nervous I am. The higher they get, the more nervous I'm perceived by. The itsy bitsy spider, little fingers here. The sir, yes sir, feels a little chaplain-y. The penalty kick, also known as the fig leaf. Superhero, not very, no, I haven't seen a preacher do that in a long time, except in Texas. 1, 2, 3, 4, I declare a thumb war. You see, I'm still putting something between me and you. I've made myself a little flesh pulpit, as Paul might say. At Duke, we have a professor who uses the sharpshooter. The hands are laced, and then the whole thing moves as a gesture. That's right, it's not very hospitable. It also begs the question, where in fact are the people? Namaste is great after I've done my massage. It's a strange place for you to keep your hands the whole time when you're preaching, and I'm told this is dated, but we'll see. I've got one hand in my pocket and the other one making a liturgical gesture. Go Alanis Morissette, yay 90s. There's a preacher I love who I've known for 30 years, and I swear to God I've never seen both of his hands at the same time. All shucks, those kind of don't mind me, y'all. The professorial prop. I have just read so many things. My head actually cannot be held up by just my neck. The Queen Elizabeth, the Alexa from Schitt's Creek, the newlywed, where you're literally holding your own hand, touching that ring, giving yourself some self-soothing, right? You people scare the hell out of me, but somebody loves me. What seems to be a good compromise, if you don't have a pulpit, there's no modesty panel, there's nothing to do, is just the liturgical basket. The way you would go to communion, your hands are open. I'm already easily able to make a gesture rather than everything being small and a little puppet show here inside my torso, which looks like I'm hiding something from you or insecure. Think about having your hands relaxed, and then you're free to go do something else with them without having to untangle, without having to move the whole unit. So think about your hands are coming with you. So I like the image of thinking of this as these angles matter. If this is me and I'm going to tell you God's secrets versus this is the Word of God open for you, how about if you've read it and before the response is the Word of the Lord, you shut it and tuck it away. So it's almost like taking the word back out of my turn. That angle matters. I like to think of the preacher as more like a docent, showing, look what I see here in the scripture, rather than an instructor who's telling you what they saw. And I think that's the way, this sounds like I'm going to beat you over the head with my creed. Angela Merkel, Chancellor of Germany, couldn't figure out what to do with her hands or what to wear. She decided on these jewel-toned pantsuits and never altered from that during her entire time because she wanted to project power, but also hospitality. And she wanted to literally invert the steeples of power, which honest to God looks a little villainy, right? Like you need a hairless cat. So she turned it upside down. And this was her at-rest hand gesture. And it became such an image of confident leadership that they put it on in the subway during the time of the economic crisis. Just her hands, made out of hundreds of photographs of good German people. I love that. Try to avoid a large, overly dramatic, semaphore-like gesture. This was how I was trained because I was a theater kid and everything had to be like blood, sweat, tears. We shall fight them on the beaches. We shall fight them on the land. That you're not directing people to the emergency exits. This is actually from an old preaching manual. So if you can imagine like a Jonathan Edwards era with no microphone, those gestures were really important. Friends and fellow citizens and children of all ages. We are past the school of the orb, but it does help to think through some of your gestures ahead of time. Pointing always is going to make you feel like you're at the end of you're being beaten over the head with somebody's little bat. What do you read here? I did not know it was a landscape company. These perceptions aren't necessarily angry, and they're perceived differently in different bodies. How about here? Coupled with the eyebrows and the facial expression? How about MLK? Where's he pointing? Mother Nikki?
To the mountaintop.
Yeah, that's right. Where that justice is going to start rolling down like waters, not at the faces of the people on the Washington Mall, but up and over to this dream that he can see, and it's coming. Even if you're pointing, you can do some other pointing gestures that are considered precision gestures. So now I'm just beating people over the head with my tiny invisible bat. The Obama ATM. These are still precision gestures. I do love myself some Elizabeth Warren, but part of her electability is an idea that she's sort of schoolmarmy and knows it all. And I think she's brilliant. But that gap between how people are perceived and how they think they are perceived comes across in things like these precision gestures. What are your, repetitive meaningless gestures? I tend to be a repetitive meaningless gesturer. I'm especially aware of it since I wore clown sleeves today accidentally. If you are comfortable as a gesturer, if you're full-bodied, be aware if your hands just move to keep your mouth going. Just tossing the liturgical salad. And if that's you, if you're fully embodied, then maybe if moments of key connection, you stand perfectly still. If you're not a very embodied gesturer, maybe you reserve those gestures for a time you really want connection. We're from a lot of places. Do you have Costco in Canada? Okay, then this is going to work. Costco, you can get the product you want, let's say Tide. Let's say you really want to use name brand clothing detergent. You can get the same product 30% bigger for less. Imagine, if you would, your authentic self as your regular old Harris Teeter, Food Lion size self. Think about Costco sizing your own authentic notion of what you intend to do. You may have had the experience of watching yourself on video and think, I thought I was more animated than that. I really thought I gestured there, and did somebody edit that out? I know that I had a good, long, significant pause, but somehow it didn't make it to the back of the room. Imagine the Costco-sized you. If you want to emphasize a word, give it a little 30% more. You're not faking it. It's not Shakespeare in the Park. It's what you wanted the word to sound like, but you give it a little more. If your gesture is from here to here, maybe you Costco size that, and now you're 30% more. We'll talk about that in a lot of different realms. And what are your nervous tics? Let's see them. You all have them. Tucking your hair, wiping your eye, adjusting the glasses, two-handed glasses. You're very scholarly. Yeah?
Swaying.
This way? Anybody else? Any beard strokers? You're just nodding now. Yeah, this also looks a little villainy, right? World domination. It's a lip press, lip tightening. Sometimes you can hear it, and it conveys disapproval, disappointment, or that you would say something, but you're just restraining yourself. My mother looked like this in the 80s. I know you had a wine cooler. I lost my train of thought. So touching the wedding ring, all of those things tend to be self-soothing gestures that your mother would do. Tucking an errant lock of hair, rocking you gently, touching the side of your face, adjusting your glasses. You know what they are. Just be aware of them. That's part of who your God-given call is. Your parishioners also know what they are. So they know something's coming. All right, we're buckling up because whatever's going to be said next. Okay. Be aware of what your nervous tic is. Effective gestures are open, they're hospitable, they're not this arbitrary school of the orb, but they're appropriate and may be considered beforehand. A colleague of mine preached right after the total eclipse and the events in Charlottesville, Virginia, and the death of Heather Mayer in a white nationalist riot. And she opened her sermon talking about seeing the sun poured into a hole in the sky, and all we had to protect ourselves were these little pieces of cardboard. You can see what I'm doing, right? You remember them? Nobody could find them. They were really shortage. 3 paragraphs later, she talked about the riot, and all we have to protect ourselves from their vehicles of hate are pieces of cardboard. Now it's a protest sign. That kind of gesture, you're not going to be that specific and arbitrary all the time, but that was 6 years ago. And I can remember that move that now let me make this delightful leap in my mind of that kind of hatred being like the destruction of the sun. It should be augment rather than distract from your message. If everything's big, then nothing is, right? You might want to consider confident and spatially appropriate. If your hands are, say, here on the pulpit, your gestures are going to be pretty spatially appropriate. If you're in a smaller space, your body will naturally respond to that smaller space. I remember a sermon long ago where the preacher was telling us about Abraham, who took his son Isaac. Whom he loved, and he placed him on the altar. He's so little. That's not a spatially appropriate gesture. After David slew the giant, he took out his sword and he cut off his head. Like cutting birthday cake, happy death day to you. And they should be above the waist. Sometimes you have an inclination that you want to gesture, but you don't have quite the Costco strength for it to be big enough to notice. So we want to know what you're doing down here. It's very disconcerting to see an almost gesture. All right, we got to go faster. Open and away from the torso. If it's worth gesturing for, go ahead and gesture boldly. Sin bravely, so that grace may abound. And if it's too much, someone can always tell you to haul it back. But honestly, I just don't think that is the current problem of the Episcopal Church, of just too much muchness. And don't always use both hands. That does kind of give you that emergency exit thing. Sometimes just one hand is enough, as Alinus has taught us. And if all else fails, modified arons. Use it for everything. Rise, be seated, come forward. This ancient gesture for prayer. Let's all see your modified arons, shall we? Everybody up. Oh, that feels so good. Okay. Let's see it. Beautiful. Do you see the grace? Look around at each other. Lovely. Okay, you may be seated. Everybody's modified that I could see looks great. You want to avoid the kind of, is it raining out? You want to avoid field goal. I'm Presbyterian, so we got all kinds of problems with our closing gesture. Has soft elbow, hands relaxed. Much like you would go to pet a strange dog, keeping your hands soft and open rather than approaching with these kind of martial arts gestures. The world is hurt and broken. Let them sniff you a little, right? So don't think about your hands being accessible. I'm already sorry I said that. In my church, our preacher would say, please be seated, and mash our heads down. And I hated it, and I would not sit. Make me. I was the very last person. It feels very whack-a-mole, right? I hated that. Facial expression should convey hospitality, invitation, and confidence. You're not selling used cars. Facial expression does not reside in a smile or a joke. It's more up here. It's in your eyes and your openness and your willingness to exist in space, your face will preach its own sermon. You are forgiven. In the name of God, I say you are forgiven. My face is not matching my expression. And Jesus went to Martha, and she said, Lord, why didn't you come earlier? He stinketh. And sometimes in the South, especially, we have sort of nervous smiles when things get prophetic or weird. If all else fails, we'll try to be charming. Be aware if your at-rest posture is to just sort of charm them to Jesus. It may not fit your message. If you focus on how you feel about the message, the rest of it's going to take care of itself. You're not going to be thinking, I should gesture here. I should frown here. But if you're internally connected to that message, that it's not simply the black and white words on a page, but is in fact passing through you, all of that stuff will take care of itself. If you have glasses, it's a little harder to read your facial expression. When they ask you about your glasses, get glare-free instead of scratch-free, because that's easier to read your facial expression. The mouth shrug. There's Jonathan Edwards, even at that moment, contemplating the sinners in the hands of an angry God. It's also called sturgeon face, lip ironing, lip press. And it usually comes between one good idea that you really like and the next one you're going to like even more. It's often the last vestige of a filler, a like, an a you know, and it gives you something to do with your mouth. I had a preacher who, it was audible, and now let us pray as you taught us to pray, saying, Hillary's going to look like that always now. This is anger. This is John Howard Wesley. Did I get those in order? Yeah. Oh, okay. Somehow that sounded wrong. This is a sermon that was delivered the night after the Trayvon Martin verdict. So you want to convey what you want to convey. That is outrage and injustice. These 11sies, I apparently have reached a certain age where at rest I look angry. I don't know what happened, but now I just look pissed because my family always thinks, what's wrong, Mom? I'll do the dishes later. That's just my face now. RBF. These lines tend to convey intensity or anger. These horizontal lines convey looking for collegiality, assent. Do you want to form an alliance? So these vertical lines versus horizontal lines convey openness. Oh, here's my beards. All right, so you can sort of get an idea of which person you think might be most likely to mug you. If you have a beard, just know that you have extra work to do with your eyes and your eyebrows. So let's move on to talk about this other little sliver, this other little bit that's left, the verbal. So we spent a lot of time talking about our bodies, our gestures, our facial expressions, our posture. We're going to talk about the processes of speech. The respiration, phonation, resonance, articulation, and prosody. We don't have a lot of time to spend on each of those, but I think it's important, since your livelihood now resides in your throat, to understand the mechanism and best be able to attend to your voice throughout decades of preaching. First is respiration. Those of us who were theater kids spent a lot of time doing really wacky, thank you, everybody turn for the back, respiration exercises where you needed to stand against a wall or lie down with a stack of books. None of that is necessary. Your body's prime directive is to maintain consciousness. Your body knows how to breathe. It only needs two things: a supportive posture that lines up the respiratory mechanism beneath the vocal mechanism, and for you to just shut up for one little quickety-quick second. A pause, Your body automatically replenishes your airflow, and you move on. Some of the common things I see are faded endings. You start off really strong, and then sort of by the end of the thing, it's like a train disappeared from view. The Doppler effect. Glottal fry, which we'll talk a little bit about. If you are 45 and under, let me see if I could do it. If you are 45 and under, this doesn't bother you one little bit. This is just, we just talk this way with a lot of glottal fry. We like ourselves some Ira Glass, some cereal. If your congregation is 45 and older, they hate it with a holy hatred. So be aware that a lot of glottal fry in a particular population is perceived as disaffected, uninterested, not energized. Gasped, rushed rate, hardly any of you are going to be paid by the word. I don't think that's a thing in your denomination. It conveys that I'm going to start talking and I'm just going to keep talking because you all might interrupt me and I'm not sure I should be here anyway. And now I'm going to have to take a big pause between crusa and fiction. Unsupported sound. This is just me and you. We're just chatting. So when I first came to Duke, 1991, there was very much a style, a pedagogy of preaching that was sonorous and manuscript and a little bit more in the theme of this guy. The word of God for the people of God. Our dean talked that way at the time, even in the hall. How are you, Christine? I was better before I saw you. And women at that time, there were very few, and the model for preaching was taught to them to preach like men. We wore pantsuits with shoulder pads. And spoke in a way, pushed our voices down and denied all the beautiful lyric voice that is a woman's larynx. So that was then, the 90s. And then late 90s, storytelling came around and Tom Long and our God was an awesome God. And now we're over here. And maybe overcorrected a little bit. I don't want to intimidate you or anything with like hymnals. Jesus, I'm just you. I look at porn a lot. Sorry. I'm just gonna just bounce some ideas off of you. I was at Starbucks and I got this muffin. And it was pecan and cranberry and orange. It was like the Trinity. This is sort of this frappuccino voice, right? So I don't have a lot of energy. You're seeing a lot of angles in my body. I'm not this guy either, but this almost undercuts the homiletic privilege of proclaiming. And I get why this has happened. Because of church harm and because of that asshole and all the church has to bring to the table with shame and history and trauma. But I hold to you that there might be something in here somewhere that you can stand on your Easter feet and you can proclaim a thing with the same degree of intensity with which you believe it and know that you're speaking on behalf of the Almighty, and it's not just a fireside chat. Find where that is for you. I absolutely understand the urge to shoot yourself in your own homiletic foot and not come across as the person with the answers. I need you to be the person with some answers, an answer, or at least some good questions. I have shoved my children into the van in their least comfortable clothes and told them they are going to hear God speak through you. Hold that with the same degree of care that we hold that moment. I need some help, right? Like, I don't know how we're going to pay that back taxes. my mom died. Like, we're coming to you for some sort of hope. And to hear God through you, that's terrifying. So hold that with that same degree of importance. Keep walking away from the clicker. Some of the times, so pause and posture is all you need. Just stop talking and your body will automatically replenish. These are some times that are really important to pause. And a pause doesn't count if you're looking at your notes. The pauses only count if you're looking up. I'm old. There was an old episode of Lucy, I Love Lucy, where she's at a chocolate factory. And the chocolate starts coming down the conveyor belt, and she's supposed to be packaging into the little box. And they just keep coming faster and faster, and she starts putting them in her pockets and shoving them in her mouth. I have felt that way in some sermons. This is so delicious. Look at that great idea. Okay, now all right, here's another great idea. I need to kind of savor that and reflect. That's my turn. If we're having this space between the speaker's mouth and the listener's ear, pauses are mine as the hearer, and it's where the Spirit lives. That's when I can apply, be convicted, be moved, be persuaded, change my mind. But if I'm constantly moving my attention to what's coming next, I've missed what's already in my rearview mirror. So these are times you might actually want to mark. You might use an orange highlighter as you read your sermon so that you know it's coming. You can kind of slow down, train into the station, say that important thing, give it a pause, look down and scoop up the next thing. All of those times really matter after a theological move, after a new idea. Older folks really need that time to process the thing they've just heard so that they can be prepared for the thing they're about to hear. After an invitation to imagine or wonder, which are two of my favorite words in sermons. After a rhetorical question, I wonder what Peter might have thought here. Well, I'll tell you. It's kind of rude, right? After you say something funny, after a call to action, or as we would say in the Presbyterian Church, a charge. Now, the sound is produced here, and it's going to bounce around in your head. That is part of the beauty of speech. The sound that's produced here at your larynx is very much like a sheep. It has no formants, no resonance. So we have this beautiful resonating capacity within our bodies with chest resonance, oral resonance, and nasal resonance. If the sound is too much in the nasal resonance, it's called hypernasal. It's dialectal, it's societal, it has a distinct, you can hear my voice. If there's not enough sound in your nose because you have allergies, it's denasal. So let's experiment here. I'd like you to put your hand on your sternum and your hand on the bridge of your nose, and we're going to read these 3 sentences aloud. And as you read them, feel where your hand buzzes. Ready? Miami millionaire. Buy baby a bib. The judge's garage is jammed with junk. Could you feel the resonance move down? Imagine your oral capacity as a whole cathedral. The beauty of your voice lies in the vowels. We tend to focus a lot on the crisp consonants, and it starts to sound a little bit aggressively pedantic. Open your mouth and let the vowels sing. Reading the Psalms aloud is a wonderful way to let the sound resonate in your musical instrument. Articulation, once the sound is produced, you're biting it up into sound. You don't need to speak pedantically like the library lady, but slowing down, maybe that 30% more. A lot of folks rely on this visual information. They didn't know they were reading your lips until everybody put masks on and they couldn't hear anymore. And they're also using facial expression to figure out meaning. We are meaning maker machines. And without that animated facial expression, I don't know necessarily that plight isn't a good thing. Like nobody takes a plight to Disney World. Travail. Our expressions help us make meaning of the word. There's something else I wanted to say right there. Oh, so we know this connection between nonverbal and verbal because as soon as we got smartphones in our pockets, the very first thing we did was make a bunch of emojis because we just kept pissing people off. I didn't really mean that it was winky face, tongue hanging out. We need that body language, the facial expression, to make meaning of what we say, which is why emails are so very fraught, because you can't convey that richness of that huge part of the graph that is nonverbal. Let's try this out loud. Let's articulate clearly. The lips, the teeth, and the tip of the tongue. This is a great little warm-up to get your articulators crisp and your speech clean. You, again, don't want to overdo, but you know your sermon, and I'm hearing it for the very first time. So if in doubt, the hospitable move is to make more time, more clarity. It's better for you to say one thing well than three brilliant things that have disappeared because it was too much. This kind of diction does all this. It makes your resonance more full. It makes people able to read your lips better. It cleans up your diction. It makes you louder without just yelling at people. Don't confuse being prophetic with just yelling at people. And it gives that visual information. And here's my favorite, the vocal folds. We've made it to the folds. So those are your vocal folds. They're not really chords, and they're coming together to vibrate, and your vocal folds vibrate around 200 times a second for women, 100 times for men. It's not that binary. We're all very different in our voices, but that is the way your voice is produced, is your vocal folds vibrating together hundreds of times a second. Think about how valuable your voice is. Oh, please don't clear your throat. And your pitch is determined by your body, your size. Your voice is the voice God gave you in that voice. We're past shoulder pads and altos now. Speak with the voice that you have. So that little mucus wad there, as we call it, a snot string in the medicine business, often makes you feel like you've got something in your throat and you want to clear it, and it's a bad habit. Instead, kind of swallow or take a sip of water. You can have water in the pulpit. I suggest you not put it in a sports bottle because Marco Rubio and all that. There was a response to the presidential address when Marco Rubio lurched off the screen to grab an Aquafina. So a little cup is nice. You can also use like a lemon Ricola drop, cough drop to create more secretions. Things in the morning that would make your throat kind of blah, blah, are dairy and caffeine. So basically all your breakfast foods and sugar. Some common concerns are harsh, strident quality. I'm going to talk a tiny bit about gender again. So when a baby is born, you cannot hear the difference of a vocal cry. When biological males' testosterone kicks in adolescence, the voice drops about an octave in one kind of sweaty, uncomfortable summer. But other voices don't stay childlike either. Biological female voices drop about 1/3 of an octave between 16 and 22. As we get older and estrogen levels change, menopause brings our voices down again, another 1/3 of an octave. I like to say achieve perfection. But as men age and testosterone levels begin to go, male voices actually kind of go up a little, like, get off of my lawn. So it's interesting to me that in the nursery and the nursing home, these differences are not audible. So know what feels comfortable to you. Sometimes you have a terrible voice in your head that says you should sound like. I encourage you to invite those voices to step out and honor the voice that God gave you, that this instrument is divinely ordained. So harsh voice, word of God for the people of God, overly breathy voice. I invite you, seducing them to Jesus. Hard glottal attack is putting consonants where they're not consonants. I'd like you to say the sentence with me. I ate an apple and an orange. I ate an apple and an orange. Now bring your vocal folds all the way together and make it a heart attack. Go ahead.
I ate an apple and an orange.
Oh, that's scary. Back off with the fruit. Now put an H in front of each of them and try it breathy. Feel your vocal folds open. I ate an apple and an orange. Yeah, good. You're caring for your vocal folds by letting them vibrate naturally and in their own speed. Glottal fry, we already talked about. If everything sounds like a question at the end, it looks as if you're asking for affirmation or for someone to tell you you're right. Our gospel reading today is from the book of John, if that's all right with you. Because I could totally work up an OT lesson right now. If it's overly falling inflection, it sounds as if you have said the very last thing that will ever be said. World without end. And it's indicating that I'm coming to an end. And if you do not, in fact, stop preaching then, you will be met with pitchforks and torches because your falling inflection implied a closure of thought, a completed idea. And I'm just going to run through those 3 points again, and I have one more illustration. Do you hear that tension? So balancing something's coming next, and this is a completed idea. I'd like a cheeseburger, French fries, and a Coke. Would I care for an apple pie?
No.
I'd like a cheeseburger, French fries, a Coke. Maybe. Is it on the dollar menu? At least offer it to me. But if it's always open and everything sounds like a question, we get this kind of on tenterhooks waiting for the thought to close. I swear we're coming to an end. Care for your voice. This is your neck shofar. Don't speak above noise. I'm talking over that. You often have air conditioners on hospital visits. You're in a room full of noisy machines. You don't have to offer your voice to pray over every fellowship supper. This is your instrument and your livelihood. I suggest that you protect it. Lots of water. Limit caffeine, no alcohol. It's hilarious, isn't it? If you have asthma or allergies, make sure you have a physician who knows that you speak publicly for a living. Lots of them, Claritin particularly, dries the mucous membranes and can put you at risk for nodules, polyps, cysts, which would land you in my voice clinic, like the singer in the musical Hamilton. When you lift, make sure you do it properly with an exhale, any kind of muscle movement. Your vocal folds are primarily made to give you strength in your torso, so you can carry a desk across the room, or have a bowel movement, or have a baby. That's its primary function, to keep you from choking to death when you eat. So this overlaid function of delicate voice and opera is extraneous to the primary functions of your larynx. Duke Carolina basketball, probably not a problem for you Canadians, but whatever it is you yell at, try to do it, just get a foam finger or something. I have a lot of preachers who lose their voice. Now, this is putting it all together. This is the magic sauce. Yes, you have respiration, phonation, resonance, articulation, but to let the song sing, as Barbara Brown Taylor says, you can no more take the preacher out of the sermon than you can take the singer out of the song. Putting it all together this prosody, means using your entire house of voice. Imagine, if you would, this is kind of our conversational level. This is where you live most of the time. That's where the snacks are. I think there's a PS5. This is my general conversational tone. And I might have something that's more important. I'm going to go up those stairs. I'm on the second floor. I don't go to the attic a whole lot, except at Christmas and at Easter, because that's where the decorations are. If I stay up there, your ears will bleed. And we don't go down into the basement because no one uses their home exercise equipment very much. But you have this whole capacity. So imagine you use those stairs like pauses. If you start with one idea that's really interesting, and my next idea is even more interesting, and oh my gosh, let me tell you about this, by the time you get to your conclusion, you have entered vocal strain, you have auditory fatigue, and it can't all be important. That is my biggest vocal risk, because I do genuinely get jacked about this. I really struggle to not just stay jacked. Taking some of it down really helps the important thoughts hover. And lastly, remember this. Your expression, if your expression is way more than you genuinely care, you wrote this sermon you hated, and you just stood up and were like, well, I'm just going to have to walk this dog anyway. It comes across as fake. You've heard those sermons that's all jazz hands and Jesus. It comes across as overdone, theatric, and fake. If you do care very much, but because of your insecurity or your discomfort with your humanity, that second birth can come across very flat, academic, like you didn't care. All you need to do to balance your delivery is to say it with the same degree of enthusiasm that the same spirit that breathed that thought into you and moved your heart will show up with you in the pulpit that second birth. That's not theatric, it's not underdone, you're just matching your message. And do remember this, people are not looking for you to be perfect. We don't even like it when you're perfect. That's why it feels so good when you just acknowledge a flub or mispronounce a name. We're with you. We are for you. We're holding you up with our face and our hope, and we're hoping to hear God from you. I do not need you to be perfect. I do need to feel connection. If in doubt, always sacrifice trying to get it right for being faithful. Faithful in relationship, faithful in your authenticity, faithful in being true. Go with God. I did it. It's 2 minutes after.